Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery here. We get together most weekday mornings at 8 o'clock Central with our distribution partners to talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories, and support each of you. But sure enough, I say that, I need to give you the note here. Uh, our incentive trip is next week, and many of you will be joining us in Clearwater Beach, Florida next week based upon your production last month. So next week we'll call it spring break. We won't have any Zooms, but most of us will be together, or many of us will be together nonetheless in person. But then we'll resume our daily Zooms a week from Monday on March 24th. So our offices are open, work's being done, but no Zooms. All right, so our topic today is, I think, a very relevant one. Is buying a Shelf Corp a good deal? Because in fact, that's what we do, right? We're together, we're resellers of Shelf Corps. And of course, we all want to make money and build our personal wealth, but we don't want to do that at the expense of our clients. So the way I like to approach entrepreneurialism is, are we solving other people's problems? And can we do it not only different, but better than other options? I believe so. But let's lay out kind of our fact pattern. I know a number of you are attorneys or paralegals, so you look at things in a very systemized, um, fact-based approach. So, what is the problem that we're solving? What is the problem that we are solving? Well, a lot of entrepreneurs want money, they need money, but they don't qualify. So, how do we summarize that? Most entrepreneurs want slash need money, but don't qualify. Now, a lot of them don't even know what it takes to qualify, so that's where our financial literacy has to get involved. But the bottom line is, you can't just want money, you can't just need money to start or grow a business. You need to qualify. So, with that being said, what does it take to qualify? Well, um, I guess we'll make this separate topic. What does it take to qualify for business funding? There's not a singular answer to that because there's different sources of capital that have different underwriting criteria. But our primary focus is helping clients qualify for large business loans, not MCAs, not credit cards, but large business loans, where you normally have a low interest rate and a long repayment term. 10 years often repayment term, 120 months for working capital, even longer if real estate or certain types of equipment are involved. So it doesn't take, if someone just wanted business credit cards, and we certainly can help them with that, and it makes sense to have at least one business credit card, but that's not the gist of what we do. So we're building out fundable businesses. That's what we're doing. Now, early in our evolution, we would do custom builds for each client. It's the whole buy versus build equation. But the Shelf Corp is allowing us to provide a turnkey fundable business in 7 days. So now we're starting to address the question, well, why would someone want to buy a fundable Shelf Corp from you? Well, if they want and need money, do they have a fundable business? If so, then they really probably don't need a Shelf Corp. But if they want or need money, but they don't have a fundable business, they don't qualify, now all of a sudden we're a possible solution from them. If you remember, when you each became a reseller, we sent you a reseller email, and there were a couple attachments, one of which is the comparison sheet. And it does a really nice job of comparing the Shelf Corp versus other options. But let's get back to this. So what does it take to qualify for business funding? Again, different sources of capital can have different requirements, but let's start with the basic principle that we need to have a business in good standing, both at the federal and state level. So I'm not saying that that's a real difficult thing to accomplish, but it is needed. So if we want business funding, we're going to need a good business. Now, with that, then there's other nuances. We know that for traditional business lenders, we also need a unique commercial address. And I know we live in this environment where a lot of people work remotely, work from home, work from the beach, work from an RV. It doesn't really matter. We're not really talking about where the people work. We're talking about, does the business itself have a credible, legitimate, unique business address? So we need to have the entity, and we also need to have a unique address. So not real high hurdles to cross, but that those are needed, and frankly, we've included those in the Shelf Corp because we know it's a necessary element. Once you get beyond that, then we get more into the topic of the 3 C's, and we've had separate trainings on that, and I'll show you. I mean, if you can go to our YouTube channel, but the 3 C's are really important. And again, I think you're going to run into a lot of people that don't know what you know, and they may think, oh, I've got the entity in good standing and I've got a good address. Let's go get that large business loan. But there's the 3 C's. Who can tell me what the 3 C's are? If you could type it into the Q&A, the kind of like the chat function of Zoom. Who remembers what the 3 C's of business funding are? Because we need to be very familiar with that. The clients need to understand that, and we provide those 3 C's with the Shelf Corp, and maybe that in itself establishes why it's a really good deal. All right, yeah, Jeff's got it. So it's credit, collateral, and capacity. Capacity means cash flow. So again, our discussion today isn't, well, what do you think and what do I think? It's just factual, right? What is it that it takes to qualify for a traditional large business loan? We need to have a fundable business, which means the entity itself is in good standing. Now, I'll add a note. If the business has been around, there's more than just the filing. There's the subsequent filings, there's the tax returns, and so forth. So depending upon the age of the business, those details will be flushed through what it means to be in good standing. Need to have the good address, and then we need to have the 3 C's. Now we're talking about the business, right? So does the business have business credit? Does it have business collateral? Does it have business capacity or cash flow? A lot of people will want to take this kind of ostrich head in the sand. Well, no, it's a new business, so none of this matters. No, you don't understand. Well, this is what lenders are looking for, and I can show you how we can legally and effectively and consistently present a business that has all 3 C's, even if it's a new business. So these are important, and we include that. So for example, I will do an inset. So we'll do 2 dashes, meaning the inset. Let's talk about collateral for a second. This is where you'll find most often where your prospective clients, they're kind of a fish out of the water, that they don't often understand or don't think about the relevance of collateral for a loan. But most lenders for traditional business loans want to see what the borrower can put up for collateral, that in case the borrower doesn't repay the loan, that the lender can mitigate their exposure. So that's, I guess, in a nutshell, collateral. A lot of these folks aren't like you and I. A lot of these folks, they don't have collateral to pledge. So even if we provided them a business in good standing, and even if we gave them a great address and these other elements, most will come up short with collateral. Well, we realize that, so we built it in. So instead of a la carte this and that, where we would build from scratch, the Shelf Corp comes with the 3 C's. So we actually provide $100,000 of accounts receivables in the Shelf Corp. So that shows on the business's balance sheet, and then according to the generally agreed upon accounting principles called GAAP, for those of you that took accounting in college, it is a real type of an asset that can be pledged as collateral. So, is buying a Shelf Corp a good deal? It depends. Is the person, the prospect, looking to get funding to start or grow a business? If so, they need to have a fundable business. Most don't qualify. The Shelf Corp allows us to provide, in a turnkey, kind of a business in a box fashion, a fundable business. I see that Jeanette's asking about credit. So you're right. There's two types of credit. There's business credit and personal credit. We help add trade lines for the Shelf Corp, so that the business itself will have strong business credit. And then from a personal credit perspective, people come as they are, right? Based upon their decisions and their life circumstances, their personal credit is what it is. If it's less than ideal, that's fine. We actually help them with that for free. So that's the key here. Most people need collateral, we include it for free. A lot of people need help with personal credit. If so, they get that help for free. It's built in. So as a reseller, it's really important to understand what exactly are we promising to the client, and that's in the client agreement. So anyone that wants to be a reseller can come to 509pacific.org, fill out the submission form. There's no contract to sign, there's no money to pay, and we'll send you the reseller packet. And with that reseller packet comes the editable client agreement. The editable client agreement, you'll remove our information and replace it with yours, and you can change pricing as you would like. Anything that you mark it up is your profit. So you want to pay attention to what you put in for pricing. But the bottom line is, you'll see in that editable client agreement the deliverables that states what we're providing to the client. And it reinforces these things that I'm telling you, that it's not just lip service. Yes, we're going to provide them 100,000 of AR. Yes, we're going to help them with their credit. And I see Gilbert's asking about the third C, so we'll go ahead and address it. So this is an interesting one where people might say, well, okay, I can see where you guys can provide collateral. That makes sense. And I see how you can help build or improve business and personal credit at no cost. Okay, well, that makes sense. But what in the world are we going to do in terms of capacity, which also means cash flow? Well, we're going to actually create bank deposits. So the client does have capacity and does qualify for funding. So all three C's are built in, Gilbert. All right, so let's go back to our original question. Our original question is buying a Shelf Corp a good deal? Well, if they have a problem, they need to solve it. This is one option to solve it. It includes what's necessary to qualify for funding. Oh, and it also includes, I guess I didn't mention, so we also include the business. It's what's called a loan package. So a loan package is the business plan, the financial projections, etc. So that's included as well. So we're providing what a client would need to have a fundable business. So we're solving the problem. Now it becomes a dollar and cents issue. Is it a good value? So we certainly can resolve the client's problem. They don't qualify for funding, for business funding. We can get them qualified. Now, is it a good value? So we're going to change the question. Is it a good value? Well, let's kind of debate it. So first off, you determine the price of the Shelf Corp. I don't, you do. You decide how much the client's going to pay you. That's bullet one. Bullet two is client has no out of pocket cost. So all of you now should have a landing page if you want one. So we have what we call the reseller marketing package, RMP, reseller marketing package, that provides a landing page that's linked to you, drip campaigns, e-signature contracts, all embedded, and all that fun stuff. But the point is, just as it would say right here, no out-of-pocket cost on your landing page, it's true, right? So when clients come to you for you to help solve their problem, you're able to provide what's needed to have a fundable business, and they don't have to pay anything out of pocket, nothing up front. We finance it. So I think that makes it a good deal. And then we have the grant. And so I think the grant causes confusion, but let's just lay it on the line so we understand. The grant reimburses your clients for the purchase of the Shelf Corp. But let's look at the verb. Let's look at the verb. It reimburses. So in the grant world, it's considered a retroactive grant. So client is going to sign a contract, prospective client will sign a Shelf Corp agreement with you. You'll upload it into the portal that we provide. We'll get them financing so they have no out-of-pocket cost. And then they'll pay you. We'll deliver the Shelf Corp normally in 7 days. And then once they go through the funding process, then the grant reimburses. So if you're doing the math, let's say that you're charging $15,000 for the shelf. So let's do a scenario. And so this is a typical scenario, but you can change it because you control the pricing, right? We already established that. So let's say that you're the reseller, set the shelf, if I could type it, shelf at 15,000. You don't have to, but that's the norm. Then we facilitate financing for the 15,000. Client gets shelf and business funding. So then they can pay off the financing that they use to buy the shelf with the business funding. And then grant reimburses the client the 15,000 after they've participated. So it's designed to reward those that follow through on the process. So some people say, well, if there's a grant, well, why don't we just skip everything else? No, the way the grant is written and the way it's funded is the client needs to go through the process and then they get reimbursed for that. Now, I have a couple of you that are not, and I think Joe's one, not allowing the client to be reimbursed. You're having them assign that reimbursement to you. Kind of interesting, rather innovative. It puts more money in your pocket. Not the way it was designed, but that's fine if you want to do it. That's between you and the client. So that's the beauty of being a reseller. You're controlling the terms and conditions of the sale of the Shelf Corp. And we discussed that earlier because you have the editable agreement. All right, so let's go back. The question is buying a Shelf Corp a good deal? I think it's more than a good deal. I think it's a fucking great deal because in the end, the client's not paying anything for it. They're getting what's needed to have a fundable business. And we get them this initial 100,000 normally in 24 hours. So the first 100,000 of assets in the form of ARs normally within 24 hours. And then we normally need a week, 7 days to get the shelf all moved over into their name. And then we can use the shelf on the 8th day to go for funding. So I think it's an incredibly good deal. But we don't need to misrepresent it. We don't need to say things that's not true. We don't need to exaggerate or embellish. The deliverables are valuable, especially to an educated customer. But I'll frequently get questions. Well, why do I need a Shelf Corp? Well, maybe you don't, right? Number one, are you looking for funding to start or grow a business? Yes or no? Yes. All right. Do you already have a fundable business? Because if so, we can skip the shelf. We can help you go get funding. We've got the lender relationships. So let's just go to funding. Well, no, I don't have a fundable business. Or in many cases, they don't even know what it takes. So we actually have a training, and I'll put an asterisk here. And if you're not familiar with it, since we're not going to be meeting next week for spring break, if you go to our YouTube channel, which is listed down here, so it's youtube.com/business paralegal, there's a training called the 27 mistakes. And we developed that, and I think it tells a really nice story. A number of you are using this to develop prospects because, again, a lot of people don't know what you know. They don't know what it takes to have a fundable business, so they don't even know enough to really appreciate what you and I are offering. The 27 mistakes, YouTube video really tells the story. All right, so who else has questions, comments, concerns? Keel's asking about the reseller marketing package, so that's great. So let's add that reseller marketing package. So you do not need to get, we call it the RMP. You don't have to get this. If you want it, buy it. If you don't. There is a cost. However, it's reimbursed with your first deal. In the beginning, we were just giving it out free to everyone, but you know what happens? You know it. When you give something free, then everybody wants it and it totally consumes our time, and then a lot of people don't do anything with it. So the reseller marketing package includes the landing page, automation. And what that means is each prospect that comes into your landing page then has a drip campaign, text and emails to encourage them to sign up. They're linked to your contract. So we actually create and embed your e-signature contract. We take care of the development, the hosting, the reporting. And so with that, it's technically free, 000. However, we do want you to make a good faith deposit to show that you're going to do something with it. So the reseller marketing package, RMP, is great for those of you that are really going to get involved that don't want to dabble. I wouldn't recommend any of you that want to be dabblers to go into the RMP. I think it's overkill. But if you're willing to commit to being a partner and let's say doing at least a deal a week, 4 deals a month, then this will help. And we consistently see those of you that are using the RMP are typically earning 10 times the average of those that aren't, because you have a landing page, the automation, the drip campaign, and so forth. But I'm not here trying to persuade you to do it. So there is a refundable deposit, and then that's reimbursed after your first deal. So as long as you're going to be active and do it, great, it ends up being free. But if we didn't charge that refundable deposit, we'd have hundreds and hundreds of people saying, hey, I want this. And then most people don't do anything, and we wasted a lot of time. So refundable deposit of essentially $1,000 comes back to you after your first deal. So as long as you're confident that you can generate one deal, then it's a no-brainer. Donald is asking about purchasing a Shelf Corp. So if you're interested in getting a Shelf Corp, normally you would visit with one of our resellers. If you're not a reseller, Donald, you might want to become one, because then you could earn commission off your own deal. So I would go to 509pacific.org and fill out the little inquiry there. All right, well, we're running a bit long. We try to wrap up early on Fridays, so we won't be getting together next week because we have spring break, which means something for some of us, but also those of you that qualified for the incentive trip based upon last month's production. We're taking you to Florida next week. And then those of you that meet the production or that are top producers